Bright Copper Rose. The spray can colour is called. I love it. 100-year-old, probably lead-based painted pressed tin decorative sheets. Renewed and ready for a new life. Mistakes made and lessons learned time. For starters, you could just go out and buy brand new sheets and pay 4 times per sheet than what I managed to find these at, albeit a 3-hour drive away and a ton of work to prep them. Brand new sheets, all you got to do is prime and paint, but you spend a lot more money. Anyway, so here's an example of not getting all of the paint off. All of these are unremoved paint areas, although very small, because those surfaces are all scratched. As soon as you paint it, the scratches come through. I'm sure you could maybe do a much thicker prime coat, or even 2 prime coats. That might bury it a little bit. The panel next to it is a hell of a lot cleaner because pretty much all of the paint was removed from that panel, and you can see just how good that looks. So this was my first sheet, and I got a little bit lazy after the first third and decided not to go in and get everything out of there. And of course those marks and seeable marks are the result of that. Although you'd probably have to look hard to see them, probably wouldn't just notice them with a casual glance. This is my second sheet, which I did go to all the trouble of getting every speck of paint off that I could. As you can see, it's a much cleaner base. So that's the lesson there. If you're going to remove paint from old sheets like this, put in the hard yards, keep going until it's all gone, and you end up with this beautiful sheet which could pass as brand new almost. This third sheet shows a pretty good example of minimizing your paint stripper. On this sheet I decided to thin it out a little bit and not go as thick. Now I did leave it for well over half an hour, maybe closer to an hour, while I went and had some lunch. But when I come back to it, half the sheet was a little bit mushy and the rest of had almost dried. But there is a lot of paint left on there from decidedly using a lot less paint stripper. I just thinned it right out, hoping it would do the same job. So there you go. Don't be afraid to apply the paint stripper thick, even though it can be a costly item. Don't have a little snooze after lunch, thus elongating the time that I left it before attacking it with the steel brush, which gave it time to dry out. And aim to get it all off so you don't get that noticeable visual finish of scratched paint, albeit painted. Basically the right consistency for beginning to get this off with the wire brush is sort of halfway between mushy and dry. When it's too mushy, it sprays everywhere, but when you get that right moment, it basically just balls up into little hard stuff. And the number one tip, set the drill to reverse. In the forward position, it all comes back towards you. In reverse, shoots it all away from you. That's if you can't be bothered wearing an apron or a pair of overalls. It's starting to look a little bit special up there behind me at the moment. Kind of just temporarily got my copper coloured sheets placed up there. I started using this rubber pinch weld as an edging, putting it on the sheet, pushing it up there. But the problem was it didn't hold the curve as opposed to pushing something up against the sheet. And so the middle of the sheet just dropped, so they're almost flat. And I can't have that. If you can see, I had a piece up there with this running down either side. It's black. In the first bay I spray painted it the copper colour, but the same problem. So a simple quad can be nailed on the bend. This one's too small. I had this lying around and this is far too small, so I'm going to get like a 15mm piece of quad maybe. I don't want to go too wide because that'll make it hard to flex, but when you whack it up there and nail it off to the beams, it sends the sheet on a curve. Like so. So that's what I'm going to do. Place my sheets up there and use a quad all the way around. Nail it off, it'll get stained with this timber and it'll look fantastic. Now I've got to go out and buy this stuff after wasting a lot of money on that rubber. Created a little bit of work for myself here in this corner. It's where the fridge is going to go, and I'm basically modelling a space for two fridges that are on the market. I'm going to cater for the slightly bigger one, so then there'll be a choice between the two. The smaller one will easily fit and the slightly bigger one will just fit. But the problem is the length from the very bottom to my door is sort of making all fridge dimensions kind of stick out a little bit, and I can't have that because it hits down there first. So I've bought a little bit of space, a little bit of depth by cutting out these boards and cutting the studs and the bottom plate away vertically. I'll just put a square of timber in there. It doesn't matter what it is, it's just going to be hidden. And the fridge will be able to slide in and hit here, this point here. Still be a gap up the top, but slightly less. But more importantly, I've bought about 45mm further to push the fridge back, which takes it inside the architrave of the door. So a little bit of work, but kind of worth it. So I've made up this pantry and this top from the remainder of that TV cabinet suite. One of these boxes is the drawer underneath. It's basically just a put and look at the moment, but I'm thinking it's a put and stay. I'm liking it. It's a very decent size, once I put shelves in there, very decent size pantry. With the LED light door. The angle worked out well, so it obviously gets narrow at the bottom, but still get a lot of stuff in there. And the top, this came off the actual TV unit. This was the long one, but I just cut that down in width, gave it a 5-degree chamfer on the back so it hits tight against the wall, and carried it out to park the microwave. Yeah, I think this could be a put and stay. I've still got work to do up here, so I won't fit this off to the wall just yet. It's looking good so far. I'm not sure if I was able to get enough focus while I was filming this, but this is how I've finished the bottom of the Mollycroft. It's a 30mm by 45mm 90-degree corner trim, which went up first, hard against the Mollycroft underneath the beam, and then a scotia, or a quad, some people call it a scotia, called a volo, up underneath and finished against the curved beams and up tight to the corner beam. I've had that finish envisioned for a little while, and I have had this material for a little while. I wasn't exactly quite sure what to put for a 90-degree angle. I did want something flatter. This is thick, but I'm going to live with it. Once it's all stained up, it'll look beautiful. You can see here the back of that work. You can see the groove of the back of the Scotia or quad. In each of these bays I'm going to put, once that's fixed up tight, I'm going to fix some timber panels to the back of each of these, just to close off this gap and make it look tidy. You got to admire the skill of a carpenter or craftsman who can expertly scribe timbers to meet, and that ain't me. Sliding that little piece in there to meet the other piece of quad is I've just started trying to do a scribe, and it's incredibly laborious. Basically, two ways to meet two pieces of timber, say architraves or skirting. Either just cut them on the 45, butt them, and they may not be perfect, but then you just fill them and you paint them or whatever, or putty them and stain them, which is the quick and easy way. But scribing is the skilled way, and it takes skill, but I'm not at that level. It's an admirable skill. The intricacies of carpentry and woodworking. That's a much better meet-up. Still time consuming, but I think it's worth it. Boy, have I created some work for myself. That's basically one finished bay. One of 10. Time consuming. 1 out of 10 done. Whew. And that's basically the finished product. Albeit still needing staining, painting, or whatever's going to happen. I found a quicker way to tackle this. I cut my 45s, but I also cut them on a bevel, like a 5-degree bevel, which takes away more of the back, thus giving me less to carve away for when I pretty much carve the shape to meet the other quad. And that kind of works. Must remember, I'm not an expert. It's all trial and error with me. But persistence is key. Spend enough time on something long enough and you get it right eventually.